Welcome back, everybody. Well, we're going to work on the cabinet a little bit. Not sure how far we're going to go with this. We've got some veneer repair on this side here, as you can see. Some scuff. Not sure if finishes. We may just have to redo it. I don't know. And then you've got the water stains on this side. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to address this little asbestos pad. I believe it to be asbestos. So we're going to treat it as if it is. So what I've done is I've masked around this, and I'm going to spray it and encapsulate that pad with some high temperature acrylic paint. And as I've mentioned before in some of my videos, I'm not an expert at asbestos, but asbestos is a mineral and it's mined, and what happens is the fibers gets broken off and airborne and is deposited and actually stick into your lungs and stays there for many years and causes asbestosis and other problems. So the thing about asbestos is you want it to not be friable. Friable is when it's broken off into small particles and goes airborne. So what we're going to do is we're going to encapsulate it. As long as it stays wet or damp or encapsulated, it's harmless. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to encapsulate it and just leave it in place. I took this outside and I put several good coats and of high temperature acrylic paint, clear, and just encapsulated this so that it doesn't become friable. So that's been treated. So let's move on towards the veneer work on the side. The other side. Let's see what we can do with that. I was looking at some of my veneer, and the modern veneer is just too thin, or it's a lot thinner than it used to be in the older days. So I'd either have to shim it with paper backing or 2 pieces of this and sand it down. What I've thought about doing is I've got a Philco 90 or 3793, which the faux finish is totally gone per se, and I'm going to have to address that one day. And with this one, I think I'm going to try and paint a faux finish. The faux finishes I've used in the past have been, let me give you a full view of it. It's in pretty decent shape, but the faux finish Refo Pro, I think, is out of business. I can't find any information. It's what I used on the 3760. But if you'll notice, some of the veneer is gone on this one. So what I'm thinking about doing is taking, it's going to have to be re-veneered anyway, is taking a piece of this and see if I can use that on this Stewart Warner. Failed to mention, this is a tip I learned from Don, Restore Old Radios. When you re-veneer a radio, don't throw this stuff away. It can be used somewhere else. So since this was going to have to be re-veneered anyway, why don't I just steal some of it? Borrow. We'll call it borrow. I got some feedback on my last video about why I didn't put a safety capacitor in for number 16, which is taking the B-, which is floating, taking it to the chassis ground. And my train of thought was safety caps are a recent discovery or invention to make it fail open instead of shorting. And so I just kept this circuit original. Also, the Z, or the negative part of the, I was going to keep on the neutral side of a polarized plug. Rethinking all that, I've come back and I am going to put a safety cap which bypasses to chassis ground. Okay, safety cap is installed. As you can see, I'm trimming up the veneer, and I'm going to square it up a little bit and then cut a piece to replace this. I have cut a piece of paper as a template, and then I will put that on my piece of veneer and cut it, and hopefully cut it just a little bit too bigger, especially on the end and maybe on the top, and you can always sand that stuff down, and you want it a little bit large instead of too small. The angle is very, very important. You want a good fit right in here. You want it a little bit large, like my dad used to say. He said, I don't understand it. He said, I've cut this board 3 times and it's still too short. Alright, we're going to, I think I've got this fitted and trimmed down a little bit. And of course it'll be, I'll use a little more sandpaper to trim it off. But got to make sure it's fitted up properly. There'll be a little filling to do, and then we can make that. We'll use some marker pencils and some toner to match that up. And this right here is going to be the critical joint. I've got to make sure it's fitted up really well. Okay, glued it, and in the seams I'd sanded some of the old veneer and got the wood dust and put it in the seams. So when I come back here, we'll try to match these colors up a little bit, and then may use some markers to put some more streaks to make it match there. Okay, I've glued all this in. Still got a little gap here, but I think we'll be able to fill that in. If you'll notice, the older veneer makes a better match. It's not 100%. We're going to see if we can't use, let's see what I can use here. Maybe my warm walnut Pro Mark, and see if we can match this up a little bit. I think the top, I may end up refinishing it all together just to smooth that up a little bit. Like I say, this is a patch. This is not going to be all you're going to try to do is trick the eye in not seeing the lines, and we'll see what we can do. I'm going to try to darken this up just a little bit. Okay, I'm recording this without a microphone. I'm down in the shop. But what I did is, you can see my patch there. But I applied some the Howard's Restore Finish on this. And we'll let it dry a little bit and see how it looks. But I plan on going back here with one of my markers and darken this in. I've already darkened some of this in here, as you can see. I think I can touch this up and make it look decent, and I won't have to refinish the whole thing. I'll probably go around here also, but Doesn't look too bad. The patch is not that obvious, but I think it's going to save me some time and effort there. What do you think? I went ahead and put a fuse in the circuit here, and put a new cord, put a polarized cord. So what I did is I put the neutral onto the floating ground, and as I mentioned, I think earlier, is after several people and some feedback, I went ahead and put a safety cap as this capacitor going from the negative to ground. And so a couple of safety features. It's a safety cap. If it fails, it'll fail open, and also the polarized cord keeps this point neutral. Okay, I took some Howard's Restore finish and went over the cabinet. I used two different colors. I've used an ebony and a dark walnut, and of course it's still got a lot of imperfections. I took my pen and filled in some of the light places and went over it, but I didn't have to refinish anything at all. So let's put it back in the cabinet and see what it looks like. Okay, here we go. Got the radio back in the cabinet. It doesn't look too bad, as you can see. And we're going to wrap this one up. Really appreciate everybody hanging with me. I'm on day 15 of the COVID. I'm out of isolation, feeling pretty good, and so looking forward to 2021. So thanks everybody, and from Larry, from the hills of Tennessee, have a happy new year.